United.
Welcome back to the Triple Option presented by Wendy's. Rob, Mark, Urban with you. We are talking NFL draft right now and will be for the next couple weeks. We're going to be live in Green Bay. Let's bring in one of the all-time legends in the draft business, Todd McShay from The McShay Show on the Ringer Network. Todd, man, thanks for joining us. Good to see you. It's been a while, brother.
I know. It's good to see all three of you guys. It's good to see Mark still not wearing sleeves,
If you got him, flaunt him.
My very good friend, Urban Meyer. So this is, it's great to be with you guys. What's going on?
Sleeves are overrated, Todd.
Yeah, when you're your age.
For some guys.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to add something. He's not one of the best in the business. He's the best in the business at it. I counted on him so many times. We actually did a show together years ago, and just a great person, great friend. I want to jump
Coach,
right into
I don't mean to cut you off. I was telling a story recently about the first. So Coach took the year off between Florida and Ohio State, right? So ESPN hires him and calls me and he's like, listen, we want to do weekly features. Urban's kind of film room from down at his house. So I was flying from Boston down to Florida, going to his house every week. But before the first trip, you got to remember, it's like fresh off of me the whole year with Tim Tebow and having some concerns about the NFL and all sorts of things. And so I was kind of public enemy number one. Yeah, public enemy number one. Like not only, in college football, but like even my mom, my sister wouldn't talk to me, like all of it. So I'm driving in for the first time and pulling up to Urban's house. And I'm such an idiot. I didn't even think about it. As I'm walking up to the door, I was like, what about the family? And so Shelly, his wife, opens the door and doesn't let me in and comes outside. Glad to have you here. We're going to, and this, like Urban's in the back, like watching tape right now, she's like, before I let you in the house, you're going to have to hash some things out with my son, my extended son, Tim Tebow. And so we sat there for like 3-4 minutes and she was drilling into me a little bit and I was having to explain myself and we hashed it out and she let me in and we've been close ever since. She's been wonderful to me and
don't mess with Shelly, man.
But that was my first experience with Shelly and going into the Meyer household.
Wow. I'm going to make sure I let her know. That's good for her, man.
Yeah.
There's no free passes, dude. You got to.
Hey, Coach, I guarantee you, Todd's not the first and the last person she did that to.
All right, Todd, jump into it.
Yep.
This quarterback thing, this year, obviously there's some maybe not as strong a quarterback class as there's been recently because there's been some incredible quarterback classes. I just want to hear from the expert that studied this draft for so long. When you take a quarterback and you get stuck with the wrong quarterback, that can take an organization backwards for 5, maybe 10 years. Is that still the case?
I think it used to be close to a decade because of the salary cap, with the collective bargaining agreement, not to get into the weeds with it, but there's a cap now in that rookie pool. And so it costs like $35 million for guaranteed money for a 5-year contract. So actually, if you hit on a guy, if you get a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May, you actually have this 5-year window to go spend all that other money on veterans and surround him with a good supporting cast. So it's not like it once was in terms of setting you back a decade, but I still think if you bring a guy in with a top 10 pick, let's say, you're going to ride with him for a little while. And if he doesn't pan out, it's going to set you back minimum 3 years, but probably close to the life of that initial contract. You can still go out and sign a lot of players, but you're struggling to try to get the most out of that young man. And if it's not working out, it certainly is a setback. And that, to kind of spin it forward this year, Coach, that's, I think, the juggling. I think it's two things. I think it's partly like, all right, if we bring this guy in as a top 10 pick, let's say Shedeur Sanders, for example, and he's not at the level we need him to be for the first year or two, or maybe he's never going to get to that level, we've got to try to work through it. And so we're going to go through some losing years. And so when you look at it and you're saying Cleveland at 2 or the Giants at 3, and it's not just the money or being tied up to or having a commitment to that quarterback, it's also what could I have gotten instead? could I have gotten a generational talent if I'm Cleveland sitting at 2 and a guy who could affect us on both sides of the ball positively in Travis Hunter? Or could I get the best pass rusher in this class, which I believe is the second most important position in the NFL? And so that's kind of the tug of war that you do. We got to have that guy at quarterback. But if we go with Shedeur at 2 or at 3, what are we passing up on too? And maybe we could get back into the first round and get a Jackson Dart. And now all of a sudden I have Travis Hunter and Jackson Dart, or Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart versus Shedeur Sanders and a guy who you're hoping that it becomes a solid starter at the edge position or a wide receiver cornerback.
I want to add one thing before I hand it off to Mark here, is that I also witnessed the Alex Smith phenomenon when they drafted him number 1 overall, and I kept hearing he's a bust. And they just happened to put him on a really bad team, a really bad organization that didn't know how to function. And it's amazing to me is that, certain organizations just are lousy. And the one thing I always hear with those organizations, they have a lot of cap space. Yeah, I mean, maybe you don't understand the whole cap, but you understand great players. So that's the other phenomenon. You get this quarterback and he gets stuck in a bad organization. Then all of a sudden he goes to the Chiefs and he has it like Alex did. I think it's twofold. One is, the quarterback's not good enough. The other one is you get stuck with, a bad organization that you don't surround them with the proper talent. There's
no question. I mean, the Jets are a perfect example. You're not winning with that owner, period.
Wow.
You're not winning with that owner.
Wow.
And so as long as Woody Johnson's there and meddling, look at all the good quarterbacks that have gone through there, talented guys that have, like Sam Darnold's the best example. And some of them, Zach Wilson, we'll see if he can ever be something more. But I'll say that I feel like Alex was the first, and then there was kind of a long stretch before we started to see these, call them retread quarterbacks, but like Baker Mayfield getting out of Carolina, that ownership, right? And bouncing around, getting a little bit of time with Sean McVay and the Rams. You saw it with Kyle Shanahan, a year with Sam Darnold as a backup. If you get somewhere where the light finally comes on and then you get an opportunity like Baker's gotten in Tampa, Baker's one of the top 7, 8, 10 quarterbacks in the NFL now.
Yep. Look at Geno.
Geno Smith, great example, Mark. Great. So we've seen with Geno and Baker and Sam, like it used to be where if it doesn't work the first place, you're done.
Yeah.
Cast off. But I think Alex was the first one where we bring him somewhere where they can actually develop guys. And now we're starting to see more of that.
And Todd, man, I always have great respect for you and what you do, man. And I know we're sitting here talking about quarterbacks. We're sitting here talking about pass rushers. And you know what I want to talk about, man? I want to talk about these RBs.
Safeties? You want to talk safeties? Yeah, punters?
I like safeties, too. And they got a nice one out of South Carolina.
It's a good year for you, Mark. It's a good year.
We got your boy Genty. You got your boy... one of our favorites, Scatterboo, R.J. Harvey, Quinshawn Judkins, Travion Henderson, man. Tell me about this RB class, man, because there's some studs, and I need to know how you ranking this class right now.
I look back just in my 25 years of doing this, and it's the best running back group top to bottom that I've ever seen.
Wow.
Okay, let's start there. Then 2017 was a damn good class.
Yes.
That's like Leonard Fournette, Christian
McCaffrey, Kamara.
Yes, and the list went on. And there were 30 running backs taken in that class. That's the most in the last 3 decades, I think. There's been a couple other times. I think it was 2017, right? Wow. I could be wrong. Whatever that year was with Fournette and McCaffrey. Yeah. This year's group is better because there's more third, fourth round talent, whereas there were a lot of guys back-ended that year. I mean, this list is, and we can get into the specifics if you want on some of them, but with Genty and Omarion Hampton from North Carolina, they're legitimate, doesn't matter the year, first-round talents. Travion Henderson, being able to see him in that system, the way he was utilized, he was injured. He's just never going to be your bell cow back, if you will. But Jahmyr Gibbs, look at his value in Detroit. You have a clear vision of what Travion can be. Judkins, I just love Judkins, his run style, his acceleration, all those sorts of things. But then just some of the names, right? When you start digging into this, after the 2 Ohio State backs, after Genty and Hampton, you've got Caleb Johnson from Iowa, who I think people are kind of underrating. Scatterboo, who I loved watching college football this fall. We all did. I mean, he's just a special dude. his tape's actually even better.
Yes.
RJ Harvey and DJ Giddens, two just like type guys, quickness and ability to make guys miss from UCF and Kansas State, who I don't think a lot of college football fans got to see a ton of this year, but they're going to be like 3rd round draft picks. Then you got Dylan Sampson, what he did for Tennessee, right? Bashul Tootin for Virginia Tech, Jordan James, just ultra quick running back from Oregon. Damian Martinez, a power back, north-south downhill. Brashard Smith and what he did at SMU. Jaden Blue as a 4-3 guy and explosiveness out of the backfield. And then you get like Ollie Gordon. Like, it's not just great backs and talented backs. It's guys that were big-time college players too.
Do you think that the Eagles and Saquon and the Super Bowl have put a premium back on the tailback? Because for a while there, it was like and I was astounded because I've always believed in a great tailback. I mean, if I was, picking a college football team right out of that jump, of course you want quarterback, but who's going to be behind them?
Yep.
So is there more a premium this year, you believe, after I know it's all cyclical. Is there more premium this year after the Eagles?
I think you'll appreciate this, Coach. We've had a lot of conversations about like schemes and adjustments, and you are on the forefront of spread and getting guys the ball in space. I mean, that was from outside looking in, and the conversations we've had, you were obsessed with, and rightfully so, and before a lot of others, of let's get dynamic athletes that are versatile, that I can figure out different ways with spread and some tempo and different things that we want to do, that if I can get them the ball in a little bit of space, they can create. And that's what the NFL has gone to. It's one of the, it's opposite. You always hear like NFL trickles down to college. That was college football and a small handful of others where it kind of trickled up, right? And so what's happened is you've got all these big arm quarterbacks, you've got all these weapons and these space guys. NFL teams now, it's cover 2, 2 high safeties. It's really hard. It makes it on the quarterback and the offense to throw the ball vertically. And in doing so, what does that open up, right?
Yeah, you're man short in the box. Yep.
Man short in the box. And so now we're starting to see, like, Detroit got ahead of it. Philly got ahead of it. You've got to be able to, with the man short in the box, you've got to be able to run the football and even, get the running back the ball underneath screen game and outlets and different sorts of things. And so it just kind of marries perfectly. It's like a perfect storm this year where the NFL it's not like the cyclical thing where it's a schematic thing. We've got to have difference makers at running back. And as that's happening in the NFL, all of a sudden we've got this like generational, maybe the best running back class in the history of the NFL coming up. So I think teams are going to be much more inclined to take advantage of that than ever before.
Everyone loves the running back until it's time to pay the running back. That's the problem.
Is Cam Ward number 1, Todd?
Yeah, Cam Ward's going number 1.
Wow.
He's not perfect. It's not flawless. I went back and looked at my grades last year. I think the jumping off point for the conversation in terms of where Cam Ward would go would be 4th quarterback. I would put him kind of in that same tier as J.J. McCarthy. Honestly, Michael Penix was just a notch below with Bo Nix. I think below those two guys would be like Shedeur, Jackson Dart. I have identical grades on Shedeur and Jackson Dart. I think it's a lot closer between 2 and 3 at quarterback this year than it is Ward and Shedeur.
I'm taking Travis Hunter, Todd.
Right.
Would you take him? I
would. And you know what I'd do? I'd make him my wide receiver and I'd get him and I'd let him do both. But I can't look at that talent. He might have the best ball skills in the last, I don't know.
You see him go high point the ball,
and you stand next to him. He's big. I mean, I was shocked when we had him on the set at Big Noon, and on top of that, he's a wonderful dude. I mean, he's a great.
All he does is
guy.
work. He works.
And
he's
win.
just a worker, man.
He had like 3.79 grade point average. You'll appreciate this. Florida, the only 2 other guys to be All-Americans and academic All-American were Warfel and Tebow. And Warfel was the only one to win a Heisman the same year that he was an academic All-American. So, you're getting a smart guy, a worker, the versatility, the stamina too. I think he can do it, man. No one's ever done it. I think he can play both sides because the NFL game's slower.
Yeah.
You ever go to an NFL game? Have you gone? I mean, obviously you have, but like
TV timeouts.
I did a segment, Todd. I did a segment on Big Noon. It's 160th play of the game. He's downfield blocking 25 yards down the field.
It's fascinating, right?
Yeah, it really is.
It's like his stamina is just different than anyone I've seen. And I like Charles Woodson and Champ Bailey and even like Dion. I went like Charles Woodson and Champ Bailey had like fewer than 10 combined catches in their NFL career. You know what I mean? So like this cat's like, he's got a chance to do something no one has ever done before. And I actually think he can do it.
Todd, so how do you think it plays out? Because for me personally, I think he starts as a corner and you spot play him with packages on offense. That way you get the best of both worlds. Like you feature him 20 snaps on offense, get him the ball how you need to get him, but then you let him go shut down whoever and follow whoever on defense. How do you think it plays out for him?
Mark, it's interesting. Most people in the league agree with you, especially coaches, right? I think it's like, yeah, we'll just throw him out there and he can play. You got to be in that meeting room as a cornerback. You've got to know what we're doing as, collectively as a team, how we're communicating, what our installs are this week. But the flip side of that is you're staring at this guy and you're watching him walk into that DB meeting room, right? And then you're looking at your quarterback and you're looking at your wide receiver room and you're like, oh, how is he not like a full-time member on the offensive side? How am I limiting him to some installs and 20, 25 play, package per week? And so that's why I say it's going to be fascinating. Like truly, we have never seen anything like this. And I do think it matters what team. Like if he falls to 4, and I don't see that scenario, especially now. I mean, a little bit earlier in the process, there was more of a path towards that, with Shedeur maybe going at 2 or 3, and who knows what happens on draft night. But if he goes to the Patriots, though, he's a wide receiver. I mean, they brought in Carlton Davis. They've got Christian Gonzalez, and they'll utilize him, I think, in like some red zone certain situations on defense. But yes, to answer your question, the majority of people in the league think full-time corner, moonlight as a wide receiver. But as we get closer to the draft, the more people I talk to, it's like he's going to do both. And B, it's on us to find a way, preparation-wise, to make him a full-time player on both sides of the ball. It's going to be different. Never done it before. But when you get a different special player like that, you've got to make adjustments and you've got to adjust to what you have.
Sure.
You and I were talking earlier this week, Todd, about recent trends in the NFL draft, and you came up with an interesting one. Premium picks on premium positions. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, you cut into my day yesterday.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I was studying like 3rd, 4th round safety, so it was a nice little break. Because it got me thinking, this year's class is going to be interesting, right? Because we've got 2 tight ends in Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, who are going to go in the first. We've got 2 running backs, maybe 3 that could go in the first. We just mentioned their names. We've got a couple guys who are guards potentially. Tyler Booker from Alabama, Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. We've got non-premium position players that are kind of throughout every mock draft, if you will. But you go back, like, just the history of the NFL draft, and you go back to last year especially, I want you to listen to this. I went and did this. First round last year, 32 picks. Only 3 were on what I would call non-premium position players. The tight ends, the running backs, centers, guards, linebackers, safeties. Only 3 of those guys. So 91% of the picks in the first round were on quarterback, offensive tackle, wide receiver, which has become a premium position because of how the league has trended, defensive line, the pass rushers, and then cornerbacks that can cover those receivers. First 2 rounds last year, 64 picks combined. Only 11 on those non-premium positions. 53 were on the premium positions. So the first 2 rounds, 17%, only 17% were on the non-premium positions. Now, in the 3rd round, it all changes. That's when it's like, all right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get my running backs, my tight ends, my interior offensive line, my linebackers, my safeties. 37 picks in round 3 were on those guys compared to only 17 on the premium positions because those guys got swept up early. So how does that play into this year? I think is going to be fascinating when you've got 2 legit first-round tight ends, 2 or 3 legit first-round running backs, a couple guards that I mentioned, a linebacker in Jihad Campbell from Alabama, 2 safeties in Malachi Starks and Nick Emanwari. So I'll be interested to see, like, do they just go late and do they get pushed back, or do maybe 2 or 3 of those guys that we're talking about get pushed out of the first round because teams are obsessed with those premium positions?
I want to move to something that the transformation of the NFL draft by the phenomena NIL, where the mid-round player now, this is, and I as negative as there's a lot of positive. There's never been more college graduates playing college football than right now.
Agreed.
So that's a more mature guy that will maybe step in the NFL, but you are now potentially making more money by staying in college. As a result, I've heard this from several people in the NFL, the middle rounds are a little thinner than they used to be. Is that a true statement? When I say thinner, because people are going back to college.
I don't think this year. I think last year. I think we're starting to see, because you got to remember, we still have that weird COVID year. I can't tell you how many guys I've written up doing these reports. I've got like 400 reports. It feels like every second or third guy, it's like 5th-year player. And normally it was 5th-year player and like redshirted, maybe played a few snaps first year. Second year was a reserve. Third year started half the games. 4th and 5th year starter. Or 4th and 5th years he was a starter. Now I'm writing up guys who are like 6-year player, 4-year starter, sometimes like 5-year player, 5-year starter. So it's like this combination of the COVID year still on the very back end, NIL, and transfer portal. I know the one group of human beings out there that is just like, they're sick about it because their workload has like doubled and tripled. It's the NFL scouts. I talked to a good friend who's a scout in the Southeast. He said on it, like, typically I go to Ole Miss, it's like, 12, 13 players in the preseason that I've got to write up. He's like, Todd, this year I had to write up 30. 30. Now, that doesn't mean they're all coming out. That doesn't mean they're all going to be drafted. But he's got to be prepared and do the backgrounds and know all the medical and all those sorts of things. So that's where I think this year might be a little bit deeper. But you're also seeing a bunch of guys go back to school. And so maybe the top of the first round isn't as good as it normally would be. But I love it. I love it for the quarterbacks especially. I mean, look at like Jaden Daniels and the 2 stops and the 56 starts he had. You just look at the last couple of years and all of it, like Bo Nix. Bo Nix was like a 5th-round pick. Jaden Daniels was a 5th-round prospect going into his final year. Getting that extra year, and it goes back like all the way back to Parcells and his rules of 23 starts and all that. Like, we've always known that experience helps, but we've never had the data like we've had from the last few years to say, look, like Mark Sanchez, 13 starts, Mitch Trubisky, 13 starts, Anthony Richardson, 13 starts. Like, you're just not ready. You haven't seen enough. And so for the quarterbacks especially, I love it. But I think in general, the league is getting players who are ready to play right away. And just look at the rookie impacts we see in the last couple of years.
Now, Todd, just a little fun question here, man. I know you do a lot of these mock drafts. We're in the March Madness time. People love to do their little brackets and see how close they can get to the actual results of the Final Four and the championship. What year was your mock draft almost as close as it could possibly be to like the actual draft? Like, do you follow that? Like, how close it lands? Like, and what has been your best year?
Oh,
how close was it?
It was like the 3rd or 4th year. And I can't, I've got to go look this up now. It's going to kill me. It was like the 3rd or 4th year. So it was like 2003, 2004. I got the first 12 picks right.
Wow.
And I haven't come close to doing that since. Right. I mean, one trade and it just kind of messes the whole thing up.
Yeah.
I really like, it's fun to do. And I'd be lying to you if I wasn't sitting there looking at my mock and then for the past 17 years, having Kuiper sit right next to me as we're on draft night, almost as like this little side project, and like check X, check, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, fans love it. I understand it. NFL GMs love to do them too.
Yeah.
That's the funny part that no one really talks about, because it helps them prepare and all the scenarios for draft night. But it's gotten where it's maddening. Like one guy, you're off by one guy, and this year is going to be impossible. I mean, outside of we don't even know number 2, and we just found, I feel like in the last week or so, found out one, but I can tell you this: when Duke lost, my bracket busted. If that helps you at all.
Right.
Hey, I'm going to brag on.
Did.
I'm going to actually ask him this question too, but I'm going to brag on Todd. Todd, I think, is better than most that I've dealt with NFL. I mean, as far as the homework that he does, how correct he is. Have you thought about that? Has something been? I know we discussed this. Has something come across your table that you said, "Damn, I might go do this" in the NFL?
I had
here we go. Answer it.
Yeah.
I've had some conversations. I've had some conversations. Most recent, I don't think it's a secret, Joe Douglas, I played college football with at Richmond, and we had some conversations, but
you see that spider behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But ultimately ESPN came back and locked me in, and that was the right thing for, my family and for that time in my career. I honestly love what I'm doing. And here's the hard part. I talk to NFL scouts and I talk to people in the league, and they're like, don't you dare ever. Like, because there's a lot of days where I would kill to just do what you're doing. But I told you, I'll never forget. We had this conversation the first time you and I talked when you were taking that year off, Urban, and you were just kind of asking, like, what's it like? And I was like, listen, you're gonna love it for a little bit, because you can finally take a deep breath, you can sit back, you can have fun, you build relationships, and I think you've enjoyed all of that. But I also remember saying to you, and I've said this to many people, the hardest part is the competitive gene. I've never been able to scratch that itch. And it's like beating Kuiper in a top 100 list and ranking or a mock draft doesn't do it. So if I ever were to go take that step and take an offer, it would be because I've just always been dying to go compete and do that.
Back in the day, guys, I used to do a lot of MAC games and kind of lower tier conferences. And Todd was like my go-to. Weekly, I would send him a note. I'm like, hey, I've got Akron and Western Michigan. I'm like, any dudes out there draftable. And I don't care what round we're talking. I could care less, because he's creating content and a hit for me. So I'm always curious. We get so caught up in the first round and who's going here and there. I want a sleeper. I want a couple dudes that maybe aren't getting enough attention, aren't getting enough love, that might sneak into round 1, but are going to be an amazing round 2, round 3 fit. Who are some of those guys?
I mean, no one wants to talk about a guard from North Dakota State, but I mentioned
I do. I love guards from North Dakota State.
Gray's Zabel. Like, we've seen like Cody Mock and like a bunch of guys go through and have a great week at the Senior Bowl, prove they can do it at this level. He's going to come off the board in round 1 now, but he's that one player that everyone's going to kind of just laugh at some of the tape and his dominance. Maxwell Hairston. He's going to be a first-round cornerback, and I don't think, everyone's talked about the same guys. Will Johnson from Michigan and Jedi Barron from Texas. Maxwell Hairston might be the second best athlete, most explosive traits outside of Travis Hunter in this draft. And he had the shoulder injury. Apparently, he got infected from a needle this past year. Wasn't the same guy in terms of like tackling and all that. But he ran the fastest 40 time for whatever that's worth, and it's worth something at the cornerback position of any player at the combine. He jumps through the roof. He's sticky in coverage, man and zone. I think Maxwell Hairston's going to be an absolute find for an NFL team, and I just don't feel like he's getting an awful lot of love. There are some other, like Elijah Arroyo is just getting completely overlooked, the Miami tight end in this class, because you've got this unbelievable talent in Tyler Warren, and you've got another great receiver in that like Kelsey line of Colston Loveland from Michigan. But Arroyo, he had the injuries in college, and he didn't even have great production. They spread the ball out to a lot of different places at Miami this year. But he's different, man. Like he got some like dog in him. I think Arroyo in the second round is going to be a player where every year we look back like, how did that guy get to the second? He has everything you look, 6'5", 251 pounds, runs fast, explosive traits, was awesome at the Senior Bowl. How did he get to the second round? I think Arroyo is going to be one of those guys that we look back and talk about.
Where'd you have Ingram?
Early.
Oh, stop. I'm going to
That's when running backs mattered.
Yeah. So you were surprised you were surprised when I made it 28.
Yeah, I actually was. I remember that.
Me too.
I remember that.
Me too.
I remember that. I thought I had somewhere like the top 15, somewhere in that
range.
I could go back and look.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man, because that's what I said. I said, McShay told me I was between 10 and 20, so I knew I couldn't go past 20.
That's one of the problems with this job. Coach has called me in the past, called me a couple times. Nick Saban, that was always I forget Nick's secretary's name.
Linda?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Miss Linda.
Yeah.
Yes, Miss Linda. I would, every once in a while, there were like 5 or 6 times in decade that he was there, I'd get that call from Miss Linda's phone, and I'd be like, oh boy, setting up a call for Nick to call and get after me. You're too high on this guy. And he was right once or twice. I was right once or twice, but
was he talking about his guys or other guys?
His guys.
His guys. Because his guys wanted to leave, and
when they were making decisions, they saw a mock draft with my name on top of it, and he was pissed off. And he's not the only coach. I've had plenty, so I don't like that aspect of it, but I do my best to try to be as accurate as I can.
I'm going to ask you one thing.
Yeah.
Did you have Kareem Jackson going number 20?
No.
Nobody did.
No.
Kareem wanted to leave. Coach Saban wanted him to come back. Kareem like, I'm leaving. Kareem went number 20. I think he just finished his 15th year too. So kudos to him. But I just wanted to ask you about that.
No, I did not.
Hey, Todd, from your unique perspective, what do you think NFL scouts, NFL GMs, NFL head coaches are getting wrong or spending too much time and getting wrapped around the axle on when they really need to be focusing on elements A, B, and C?
That's a good question. I think the league's come a long way. I think it used to be, I don't think, it used to be a lot of like crusty, not understanding the player, evaluators who, it's our way or it's no way, that kind of thing. I've seen a total transformation in executives, in scouts, people like it's, the guys that are starting to rise up. I think that there's been an understanding of like, there's no one way, like, and you don't have to be exactly this as a human being. It's okay to get paid money, and also adjusting. We don't love it, but we understand it is what it is. With some of the entitlement, and it's true. And like, I'm not promoting it, but with money and this prestige and I mean, they're professional athletes in college now, but you can either adjust to the times or you can fight them and like you're going to be down to a list of 30 guys in each draft class that you want to draft. But I also think the other thing too is, and it's I remember Marty Schottenheimer told me this one of my first drafts. He was working at ESPN. He's like, the hardest thing to ever predict, I always have found, is when you give a human being more money, more free time, and more fame. How's he going to react to that? And I've like talking to scouts early in my career, it was like 70, 80% was tape and who's the football player is and all that. And it was like 20, 30%, who is he as a human being? Who is like, does he love ball or does he love what ball brings him? I know that's a cliche, but does he truly love this? And Mark, like, this thing's a grind, man.
Yes.
You gotta love it. And you can really, really like it. And like to work most of the time, but there are dudes that really absolutely love it. And you see, if you go study it over time, those are the guys that kind of rise to the top or just get the most out of what they have.
He's right.
So, yeah.
Right. Spot on.
He is the legend, Todd McShay from the McShay
Yes, sir.
Show on the Ringer Network. Todd, man, I know it's like it's tax season for you, right? This is your busy season. You're in accountant mode right now, so we appreciate you taking the time to join us on the Triple Option. Thanks, man. Love the intelligence. Always love seeing you.
Great to see
Pleasure,
you,
bro.
Todd.
We
guys,
appreciate
man.
your time, brother.
Anytime you want. I couldn't think of a
We should do it
better
again.
trio to talk.
Be careful what you ask for now.
Exactly,
How you
Todd.
back on-
Exactly.
How you
I
back
know.
on the show now?
I'll always
Change
make
that
time
phone
for you
number
guys. You know
immediately.
that.
Light it.